Watch me as I spit fire on both sides of this argument. This is a teaser question answered later in this video. Do you have any idea how much energy it takes to heat that many cubic tons of rock to an equal temperature from one end of this planet's mantle to the other? From beginning to end, I will prove once and for all that evolution is actually true in each portion of this short video. Sermon is what the Christians call it, is important to understanding the truth and to cure the delusion. For the atheist and agnostic watching, I'm going to do something to make sure any Christians watching hopefully see the truth. After all, they claim to be against delusion. You're welcome to join me too in making them feel better. Remember, doing anything to cure their delusions is required. Christians, like this video for the prayer, and atheists and agnostics, like this video for the science. Respect the science. Let's pray a prayer against delusion because the Christians claim to like those as part of the introduction, derived from 2 Thessalonians 2, 8 through 12. Dear Creator, you sent your Son that the English say is called Jesus, but whose Hebrew name is Yeshua, and it is by his authority that we ask of you the foregoing request. We ask for assistance in daily pursuing and loving and believing the truth. We ask that in our daily and relentless pursuit of the truth, that we will be saved, and we ask that you protect us daily from any and all delusions that would prevent us from believing the truth, that we may take pleasure in the righteousness of sanctification, so that when the wicked Satan is destroyed by your coming, that we may be spared and ourselves then enter into paradise with you. Let it be. See, how can Christians continue to be delusional now that they've prayed against it? If they ignore this irrefutable evidence, then they aren't actually interested in the truth, but in their own passions and desires. We actually see evidence of speciation still occurring today. This is in koi fish, a type of carp, and because the koi fish are tetraploid, meaning that they have 4 sets of chromosomes instead of 2, like most animals, that koi fish are able to be selectively bred with all kinds of special colors and fin shapes and body sizes and shapes by hobbyists, breeders, because 2 of the koi fish's chromosomes are necessary and the other 2 can be used for creating a new species of fish. Now, once you get the characteristics of a fish you want, say medium fins and rainbow colors, you can cause gene translocation onto the necessary chromosomes from the extras to create a diploid new species. This means combining the 4 sets of chromosomes into only 2 sets of chromosomes. This new species can hybrid with other species, but it usually produces infertile offspring. If a species of fish only has 2 sets of chromosomes, then scientists are able to cold shock the embryos to cause the fish to re-enter a state of tetraploid. And this starts the speciation process all over again, such as if fertilized fish eggs catch a cold current and are washed into the Arctic. They will have the additional genetic material that they may use for selective adaptation. This can also occur in heat shock too. 1 set of chromosomes remains functional, while the other modifies for adaptation traits. And once the traits are fully honed, gene translocation occurs, dropping the fish back down to having 2 sets of chromosomes to create a new species. Different species of fish are able to hybridize with each other, and the hybridization of species is important, even if 2 different species produce infertile offspring, because if 2 species of fish are not able to hybrid, then how can the same population of fish that are undergoing different changes under the evolutionary selective pressures described be able to breed and form a new species? Whereas only the gene combinations that are able to recombine to produce viable offspring and able to reproduce again are able to pass on their genes. This ensures successful speciation. We see evidence of this exact same speciation process on land too, although the conditions required to cause healthy tetraploidy in land mammals is unknown, as all efforts to artificially induce tetraploidy in land animals produces an inability for the animal to thrive. The only main exception to this is the red visca rat, Tympanocotomys berriae, that is naturally able to develop tetraploidy. The well-known example of this evidence of mammals once being able to become tetraploidy, is best exampled in the equins, by a horse and donkey breeding to create a superior but infertile mule. Remember, we reasoned earlier that crossbreeding is necessary for perpetuation of the species under the evolutionary process, and this crossbreeding is vestigial from that process. This is also exampled in felines, where a lion and a tiger are bred to either create a liger or a tigon, and crossbreeding a domestic cat with an African serval created the coveted and expensive savanna breed of cat. And even in non-mammals, such as birds, that swans and geese can produce a hybrid known as a swoos, and are generally considered infertile. This crossbreeding even occurs within insects. This appears to occur in all animals. But where fish and the ocean differ from the land animals is that fish of the ocean are able to move through large swaths of their environment unrestricted, and food is generally considered plentiful throughout the ocean for their migration. And this allows the fish to interbreed, preventing much of the permanent speciation that we see on land, where mountains and islands and continents and deserts and peninsulas and tundras separate animals, preventing them from crossbreeding regularly and causing permanent speciation with land mammals. Now, birds have heightened ability to crossbreed because they lack some of the issues that other land animals have. However, birds are not as unrestricted as the fish because the birds must come down from swimming in the sky at some point. Yes, air is technically a fluid by scientific definition. Furthermore, part of the reason that fish still have their ability to become tetraploid repeatedly is because without it, fish species couldn't survive when their eggs get carried off by currents to waters of drastically different temperature. Wait, but if we have seen speciation for a very long time on land within this planet's history, then how is it today that we have land animals incapable of becoming tetraploid and continuing the evolutionary process on land? To answer this simple question, this process requires a large population that is able to move freely across the landscape with plentiful food for that migration and with drastically varying climate, like camels that are originally from the Arctic boreal forests of North America, but are suited to both extreme heat and extreme cold, as they are now desert animals. This means that one or all of the four things must have not existed at some point to break this cycle: large population, freedom of movement, plentiful food, drastically varying climate. There was a huge population collapse of all animals on the planet, quaternary extinction event, happening at the end of the Pleistocene, happening approximately ending in about 9000 BC for the Christians listening. During the Pleistocene, animal populations were greatly reduced, food was greatly reduced, and climate was stagnantly cold. This removes three of the four conditions required to successfully maintain tetraploid land animals within the evolutionary cycle. The only animals that could remain part of the tetraploid evolutionary cycle would be animals permanently near the equator, that being smaller due to the warmer temperatures would have difficulty surviving in the harsher cold. All migratory animals would be scattered, low-number populations like the megafauna, and all mammals near the equator would have also reduced populations due to food scarcity and being unable to spread out for additional food. Okay, but how did all of the smaller, non-migratory animals near the equator lose their ability to become tetraploid? This answer is both terrifying and absolutely cool. Evidence of a catastrophic event occurred about 5,000 years ago. If we look at the Earth's mantle using seismographs, we are able to see that there are two large low shear velocity provinces, LLSVPs, also called large low velocity provinces, LLVPs, inside of the Earth. These regions are much hotter than the surrounding mantle. Do you have any idea how much energy that it takes to heat that many cubic tons of rock to an equal temperature from one end of the planet's mantle to the other? What is the only astronomical event that can even cause this? If you look at the seismograph tomography, or the seismic tomography rendering of the Earth's mantle, these regions are opposite of each other on our planet. And at one end, they are rotated nearly 90 degrees, nearly perpendicular, and then with the other end appearing to spiral. If whatever caused this went all the way through the mantle, then these two much hotter regions would be symmetrical, and the spiraling would be continuous, not separated as two provinces. And the spiraling is against the Earth's rotation. This means that whatever caused this didn't happen once, but twice. Then the planet rotated approximately 90 degrees, and the tilt and spin were altered too. And given the evenly heated rock, they both happened about the same day. What we are also able to see is that the center of each province has the highest concentration of heated mantle, with one province being larger than the other. This means that the highest concentration of whatever caused this was in the middle of each event. I will tell you the only astronomical event that can cause such a thing. This event lasts between 2 seconds to several hours, as reported by NASA Hubble site, when two large celestial bodies, such as neutron stars, merge to form a black hole, or during a supernova forming the same. And this produces a short or long duration gamma ray burst with certainly enough energy to evenly heat the Earth's mantle, resulting in the first massive province and a massive concentration point in the center. And the black hole rotated away from the Earth for part of the gamma ray burst, spiraling. Then the Earth, whose mantle just got nuked, rotated 90 degrees and spinning awkwardly. And then the black hole completed its spiral rotation to face the Earth a second time during the tail end of the gamma ray burst, as it was losing intensity, resulting in a smaller prominence on the direct opposite side of the planet. This event gives approximately 60 days of warning, according to the Chandra X-ray Observatory. Now, take your water bottle and rotate it 90 degrees. Does the water stay in place or rapidly shift? What do you think happens to the oceans of the planet if suddenly the Earth shifts 90 degrees on its axis and begins rotating in a slightly different direction within a 12-hour period suddenly like this? What do you think happens to Pangea if you superheat the mantle and suddenly the tectonic plates begin to rapidly move apart? I'll tell you what happens. The sudden upheaval of the top layers of the ocean floor onto all of the continents, depositing sediment and fish trapped in the mud on land, and just like an avalanche melts the snow into a hard packed slurry from the friction, so too would the mud of the ocean floor be heated from the mudslide and combine with the pressure from the mud, flash fossilizing all of the buried organisms within 24 hours, preserving the soft tissues, just as the experiment done by the Field Museum proves is possible. This also explains the very, very large, deep crater within the Mariana Trench. I told you at the beginning that I was going to prove evolution and speciation, but what I didn't tell you was that I was also going to prove with evidence the global flood. Noah would have had 60 days warning to build the ark. By the way, is mathematically stable to the point that China models their naval vessels after the biblical dimensions of Noah's Ark. We see that organisms reproduce after their own kinds, and with evidence of prior ability to become tetraploid, would have had the necessary genetic material to undergo evolutionary speciation after leaving the Ark. And koi fish breeders prove that under the right evolutionary conditions, that speciation can happen extremely rapidly, and the sudden decrease in animal population on the Earth would have reduced the genetic stock of the planet to the point that once the species spread out on the Earth, crossbreeding would have reduced, resulting in the loss of the ability to become tetraploid for most land animals. Christians don't need to be bigots, and neither do atheists, nor do agnostics. Everything in this video is true to the best of my knowledge. Oh, and because the Christians watching love this kind of thing, and probably the non-Christians will like it too, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. I'll give a benediction. Isaiah 1:18, King JV. Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be like wool. End quote.